Gabriel began exploring cryptocurrencies and their underlying distributed ledger technology during his undergraduate study as early as 2010. An alumnus of University of Ontario. Oh, it occurs to me, we've heard this bio yesterday. Has anything changed?
No, same guy.
Okay. Gabriel is Bitt Technologies. He's got plenty of interesting things to tell us about that. He'll be speaking for a while, and then we will go into our panel. Our other panelists are Shiva Basesar, who we also met yesterday. As you'll recall, Shiva worked with ECLAC on the study on digital currencies, which I know you've all read by now. Finally, we have Jeremy Stephen, who is the current president of the Barbados Economic Society. He has extensive experience in private equity and economic consulting in Barbados regionally. His core consulting specialties include corporate advisory, financial due diligence, economic analysis, economics of cryptocurrencies, and web and app development. He has provided business advisory services inter alia to the government of Barbados, the Caribbean Development Bank, One Caribbean Media, and the Crane Group, Merrill Lynch. He lectures in banking and finance at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. His research on cryptocurrencies has produced his widely regarded research paper in conjunction with Professor Winston Moore called "Should Cryptocurrencies Be Included in the Portfolio of International Reserves Held by the Central Bank of Barbados?" So when the panel comes, we'll be sure to ask him about that. But to lead this off, we have a presentation by Mr. Abed here.
Good afternoon, everyone. A couple of years ago, I learned about a cool technology called Bitcoin when I was doing my undergrad in network security and partially cryptographic systems. And at the time, I didn't understand what it was from a financial perspective, but from a technology perspective, a very cool way to store data that couldn't be deleted. Over the years, returning back to Barbados from Canada, I realized there was an inept problem with access to financial inclusion. The ability for a local regional person in the Caribbean to get paid from different parts of the world. So I started reversing and looking back at the technology I'd once looked at in university and paid a little bit more attention to it. And at the point of 2013, my co-founder and I started Bitt, realizing after months of research and years of understanding the technology that we can absolutely have a solution. So what are digital assets? Digital assets are cryptographically stored digital content. In this case of digital asset, we're referring to the ability to take something from the real world and store it in the virtual world. This can be something like a dollar. The ability to take a physical paper dollar and create a counterparty digital component. And that would be your first version or a simple version of a digital asset. Another digital asset could be a title deed or an insurance bond. And we'll get to those a bit later. The blockchain protocol. So the underlying mechanism behind Bitcoin is the blockchain. The blockchain is a series of blocks and transactions, but what's really cool about it is its decentralized nature. A blockchain is an append-only database of transactions that cannot be tampered with. It consists of two key elements: a shared replicable ledger and a distributed database synchronizing mechanism known as a consensus algorithm. What does this all mean? It means that we have the ability to have a database of information shared with everyone at the exact same time with the exact same data. And when we write to this database, following the rules of the consensus ledger, these are software rules, when we interface with this ledger and write data to it, we know, well, we don't have to trust, or someone abroad doesn't have to trust us that when that data has been stored. They know that evidence, that data that's been submitted is pretty much prima facie evidence. It's hard, it's immutable, it's been untampered, and it can be time-stamped. You can talk about birth certificates, being stored on this kind of system, intellectual property rights, proposals, marriage certificates. Furthering on, why is, in the context of money, why is something like Bitcoin and in the context of the technology important? It changes the way we use money through a couple of reasons. Global financial inclusion for everyone. In Trinidad, for example, we have a high penetration rate of mobile and smartphones. The ability for every last citizen to receive or send a payment directly to their phone. Yesterday we would have heard a presentation from a gentleman who would have gone to the United States and said that less than 1 out of 10 transactions is done on a credit card or of cash. It's now all on their phone. We have the ability with this technology to offer the exact same solution, but a far superior leapfrogged technology to our people. The next important part is near instant global transfers without the high fees. We know about the traditional fee structures from ACH, SEPA, SWIFT. We know about Western Union. And if anyone has interfaced with any of these clearing warehouses or institutions, you'd be well aware that when you're sending money, it's not conducive to the recipient or the sender. The frictional fees are extremely high, not making it a worthwhile venture. Which brings me into my next point. It's not viable for microtransactions. If I wanted to pay someone in Barbados $5 right now, I have a little bit of a problem because just before I can initiate with Western Union, I have to pay $60. So we're in the hole a little bit on that. In addition to that, we can look at this solution to fixing the problem of remittances, which is single-handedly a major component of the Caribbean GDP. In the context of Jamaica, it accounts for 14.5% of their GDP. And the average costs of remittance in Jamaica range between 8 and 15%. So you can imagine that if 14% of an economy's money, or GDP, is accounted for remittance, but then right off the bat, nearly 10% of this is taken by financial institutions. That would mean that 1.45%, give or take, goes straight to financial institutions of a country's entire GDP. Absolutely ridiculous on that point. But the great part about it is digital assets like Bitcoin and other cryptographic solutions make global transfer near instant with negligible fees, allowing more money to return home. So more money in the hands of your citizens. Moving on to the Caribbean, the crisis in the Caribbean. Most of us in here are from the regulatory field, governance, or in the field of finance or technology. But specifically those in the field of finance and regulation are well aware of the creeping cancer that is facing our markets, and it's called de-risking, where correspondent banking relationships or correspondent banks decide that we are too risky to continue doing relationships with. This creates a massive problem when a country is heavily dependent on correspondent relationships to have an influx of foreign exchange to their shores. We can look at examples of where countries are directly being affected. Like Belize, for example, has lost most of their correspondent banking relationships. Cayman and Jamaica right now transfer money in physical suitcases in physical cash format on an actual plane. Because they have lost their correspondent banking relationships. The problem hasn't gone away, and it's actually getting worse. Banks are suspending accounts that they deem too risky because of rising AML costs. These problems surmount significantly towards one major problem. The average consumer, the average Joe, our citizens, these barriers have gone up significantly for them because banks and the financial institutions don't want to be de-risked. So they're starting to implement very stringent methods of anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, policies and procedures. But unfortunately, this raises the barrier to entry, making it much harder for financial inclusion to occur for the average citizen. Blockchain technology is the only real solution to a problem of this magnitude because it suspends the need for complicated correspondent linkages and makes all transactions transparent and traceable. So we talked about the distributed ledger, this shared ledger where everyone has the exact same copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. Being able to write a transaction to that means that I've produced a transparent ledger entry that our regulators or correspondent banking regulators can look at to see that there's a transparent and traceable mechanism for every last transaction moving through this network, which means that we can create much more compliant systems that have a higher level of AML efficiency. We can have better compliance programs, more accurate network monitoring of suspicious activity reporting. Because with cash, when I give you cash, that's it. You're gone. I can't trace you after that. With the blockchain technology, fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately for the regulators, unfortunately for the bad guys, it's very easily traceable, and I can watch you forevermore all the way to the day you dump those assets. Moving on to the next point. Mobile penetration versus banking structure, and this is single-handedly one of the biggest problems we have in our region. United States, they're boasting 200 ATMs for 100,000 citizens, Canada 230, but when you look in Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and the rest of the islands, we're talking about 30 to 40 ATMs per 100,000 citizens. That's just the ATMs. We're not even discussing the bank branches, the access to financial services. These are dramatically lacking in the Caribbean. It's just simply because there's no big money in the Caribbean. Small, antiquated, old infrastructures, and it doesn't make sense investing the money for quite simply a very small population and a lot of stress. So big banking isn't there with the backing, and therefore we are not the recipients of better systems. The Caribbean doesn't have a highly developed banking or finance infrastructure. The Caribbean boasts incredible mobile penetration numbers. And that is something where we have near parity, and in some cases are excelling modern developed markets. Our mobile penetration rate and internet penetration rate is something to be desired in developed countries, as a matter of fact. Trinidad boasts 159% penetration rate in the Caribbean, so well done for you guys. You guys like to use cell phones. In Barbados, we're at 106%. In Dominican Republic and Haiti, they're boasting around 70 to 80%. And it shows that these islands have the ability to have consumers who are technology connected, who are connected to foreign global markets. The problem is we have very high access to internet and mobile and communication services, but extremely low access to financial services. With blockchain technology, we can bring this parity completely up and allow citizens to be on par with global communication as they are with financial communication. Beyond money. So the really cool part about this technology, as I started at the beginning of my slideshow, was Bitcoin's blockchain technology, because it creates the world's most immutable ledger. It accounts to be the world's strongest supercomputer right now, is the Bitcoin proof of work network. Because it's so powerful in terms of its ability to store data in a trustless format, where I don't need to trust Harry or Jane when I'm sending them my digital assets or vice versa. I only need to transact 32 characters that are a mathematical combination. And the importance of that is I can use this system to revolutionize anywhere there's a central authority or a hindrance in a system through lack of efficiencies, because it requires trusted validation. And we can look at this in the case of real estate, where I need town and country planning. I don't know what your government division of that would be, to move a property title deed from Harry to Jane, while matching the credentials of the 10 other agencies involved in that movement of a property. But with blockchain technology, I can centralize the verification, but decentralize the verification process, meaning that anyone can now validate the information written as true and real. We can do this for credit ratings, loans, anything in the world that needed to be placed as this evidence has not changed in its format, and what we submitted is actually this. And it's a crazy, beautiful system for validating that data has never changed. So when I write, I cannot unwrite. And that's the important concept there. Where do we stand with digital currencies in the Caribbean? You know, we've seen in Barbados, Bitt.com is taking the charge and has been since the advent of digital currencies. In Barbados, for example, we have an ATM. I can go over to this ATM with my phone, I can send it digital dollars, and it spits me out Barbados dollars. Vice versa, I can put in Barbados physical dollars, and it will send me on my phone Barbados digital dollars. I can then receive money from someone in Timbuktu, Canada, United States, Romania, or Ukraine, it doesn't matter, in seconds, and then I have those digital assets I received converted to my local Barbados dollars. So I'm able to receive assets from anywhere in the world and not have to worry about the volatility, the risk, the acceptability, the fungibility. I'm converting to my known currency, my Barbados dollars, via digital formats. Furthering that, we stand as a financial technology company building out the software layers to allow the deep infrastructure to occur. Banks right now are not technology friendly. So your online banking is lacking, your mobile banking is lacking, and it's not that they can't offer these services or they don't. It's the value added services that come with that. The ability to do merchant payments, payroll, bill payment. Imagine a government organization being able to pay every last person to their phone automatically on the 25th of the month, with the NIS and the taxes being paid out directly to those that were responsible for holding them, all automatically through an automated system. These systems exist right now, and we are producing them in Barbados. In Dominican Republic, a travel agency has launched a Bitcoin ATM. In Trinidad, there's 3 to 4 startups. One of them is called Bitbox, where they're allowing you to buy Bitcoin with TT dollars, and then they'll allow you to buy Amazon credit for a 20% discount, because the company they're buying through, they take Bitcoin and give a 20% discount. So Bitbox has been doing quite well in Trinidad, and we've been watching their progress with smiles. And then you have other people buying and selling the cryptocurrency in the region on a massive basis. You have high net worth individuals that want to buy a couple $1 million worth of Bitcoin at a time. So there are the market movements happening in this region, and it's a lot more aggressive in the last 3 months than we've ever seen it. To the point where people are realizing, developers, entrepreneurs are realizing, I can build the next generation payroll system, or the next generation bill payment, the next generation peer-to-peer loan, peer-to-peer crowdfunding. I don't need central authorities. I don't need the monopolies anymore that hinder my ability to be an entrepreneur. I can leapfrog their services, and I now have access to global markets. So revolutionizing the way we pay. And Bitt is building merchant solutions, exchange services, payroll and bill payment services, and we're incorporating it into the traditional market. So we are working with banks, we are working with regulators and central banks, and we're working with telecoms, we're working with credit unions. The goal there is to provide an all-inclusive network where users can send and receive payments for free. And I believe that to be a humanitarian need and an issue. And I believe with this software, because the technology is there where it can be done, then it should be done. And therefore, that's the stance we've taken as an organization, and it's paid off very well. So with that being said, digital currencies are the future, and we need to embrace them adequately. We need to work with the regulators to define models and systems that match the needs of protection of the citizens. We need to understand how these things can allow our nations to grow significantly, from more efficient systems to global financial inclusion for every citizen, to reduced frictional costs of banking, all the way down to better services being able to be provided to us. No more bank lines. That sounds nice. So with that being said, thank you.